right, gang, welcome in. Today we're going to be taking a look at Mel Kiper's 3.0 mock draft. Just came out the other day. I finally had a chance to take a look at it. We're going to mock the mock, take a look at all 32 picks. I'll give you my analysis, things that I think of this particular draft, how I would maybe go a little differently, and then give you a little special analysis on the New York Jets pick overall. In terms of our mock draft contest, if you haven't done so already, link in the description down below. All you got to do is fill out a first-round mock draft. You can switch it up until the day before the NFL draft. And if you wind up winning, I'll send you out a jersey of your choosing. Doesn't have to be a Jet jersey by any means. Hope it is, but if not, that's totally fine too. And then if you want to support the sponsor of the channel, 𝐀𝐟𝐼𝐥𝐢, get yourself some THC gummies, seltzers, or a little bit of syrup. Link in the description down below. Promo code JETSTALK for 25% off. All right, let's hop into this. Caleb Williams going #1 overall to the Chicago Bears. It just makes all the sense in the world. This has been the most consistent pick, I think, over the entirety of the mock draft season. And with Justin Fields being traded away to Pittsburgh, this opens the door for the quarterback selection up at #1. So this pick is not going to be traded. It is going to be a quarterback. And Caleb Williams, look, I'll be honest, does give me a little bit of concern. The big games, doesn't have a great record against them. I understand it's a team sport, but there's still something to it with the quarterback position for me. And then just some of the way he's handled himself with the combine and maybe not testing at certain points might rub some people the wrong way with his comments. Now, Marvin Harrison Jr. did something-ish similar, I guess, by not even doing anything at his pro day. So maybe you chalk that up to just, top draft picks. It doesn't really matter. And the talent will supersede any of that sort of stuff. But I do think he just has to be aware of it going into locker rooms. And the Bears loading up with offensive skill players. They're going to try and give him the best circumstances around him, something that Justin Fields didn't have the benefit of until basically like last year. So this pick makes all the sense in the world for the Chicago Bears. At #2, we got Jayden Daniels coming in to the Commanders. I think this makes a whole lot of sense. I actually like Jayden Daniels the most purely because of his 6'4" frame, his 210 pounds. He can put on more weight. His speed is all there. Heisman Trophy winner. This guy just wins football games. And it's impressive. He feels like he can take over a game with his athleticism. Now, he can't take the hits that he took in college. These linebackers, these safeties are going to be much bigger at the NFL level, and he is going to get hurt if he doesn't slide or get out of bounds. So something to just keep an eye on, I guess, if you're Washington. God forbid you lose another running quarterback that you drafted #2 overall. I think that fan base would go absolutely Looney Tunes. But I like Jayden Daniels here. He's actually my favorite quarterback in this draft. At #3, that leaves the Patriots for Drake May, air raid offense down at UNC. Clearly, the Patriots need a quarterback. I was under the impression they might try to add like a Justin Fields and have Brissett and Fields go back and forth and then maybe trade out of #3. I think it's probably a little less likely that they trade out here given the quarterback situation. But dual threat quarterback, I don't think you could be upset with this selection here if you're a New England Patriot fan. Makes all the sense in the world. You get Brissett to kind of push Drake May for the opportunity to maybe start, or just let him get a redshirt year and have Brissett take the reins for a year or two. I like this for the Patriots. At #4, the Cardinals select Marvin Harrison Jr. Look, Marvin Harrison Jr. consistently always put as the #1 wide receiver in this class. Perfect size frame at 6'4", 205 pounds. I love the legacy type players that had parents in the NFL that can now grow up basically on an NFL regimen. That's how I look at Marvin Harrison Jr. Kid's been trained since birth to be an NFL receiver. Now, I do think the Cardinals are ultimately going to trade out of this pick. I think they're going to have to trade with the Vikings purely because the Giants may go quarterback, and the Chargers, while they are willing to trade out, aren't going to trade out with the Broncos or Raiders just behind the Vikings. So if the Vikings are coming up, they're going to want to get in front of wherever those two teams might be able to trade up to, which is why I think the Vikings are ultimately going to have to trade up to 4 to beat those two particular teams to get their quarterback in J.J. McCarthy. So I don't think this will ultimately be the selection, but I do think Marvin Harrison Jr. going off the board, if the Cardinals stay at #4, makes a whole lot of sense. At #5, the Chargers go with a wide receiver. Now, they are open to trading down, and I would say, I'm lukewarm on what I think they're going to do. I could see them take the best receiver. They obviously don't have Keenan Allen or Mike Williams at this point anymore. They need weapons around Justin Herbert. They could also use a right tackle. So is there a situation where there is an attractive enough trade down opportunity? If the Cardinals really want Marvin Harrison Jr. and they make the selection at 4, then I would say the Chargers are most likely to trade out with the Vikings, and then they load up on a bunch of picks at pick 11. Then, assuming they give up 10 or 11 and 23, I think is their other pick, they would actually have a great opportunity to take a right tackle at number 11 if that was the decision they made. But replacing Keenan Allen and Mike Williams with a nasty wide receiver in Malik Nabers is just a really, really good idea. 1,500 yards, 14 touchdowns this past year. This guy drew comparisons to Odell Beckham Jr., and obviously the LSU connection probably helps that, but I very much like this pick for the LA Chargers. At number 6, he's got the Giants going with the receiver, Rome Odunze. Now, in this situation, he has J.J. McCarthy falling past the Giants here. I would think if J.J. was on the board at 6, I think he's ultimately going to be the pick for the Giants. If he's not there, then I do think they do go wide receiver. And I like Odunze a lot. Number 1 in contested catches, number 1 in deep ball catches, 1,500 yards, 13 touchdowns this past year with Michael Penix at the helm. Team captain, I always like that. So this is a player that if he fell to 10, I'd be all over. Very much like him. So Giants get a playmaker at number 6. Number 7, this is like a very, very common pick, and I'd be shocked if they went any other direction here, and that's left tackle Joe Alt out of Notre Dame. Guy measured in at 6'8" and ran a 5.05 40-yard dash. That is just stupid fast from the first-team All-American. Over 2,200 snaps at left tackle. This guy is the consensus best tackle in this class, and I think this is a home run selection for the Titans. I would be shocked if they went any other direction here. Number 8. Dallas Turner going to the Falcons, top defensive player off the board. This guy can cover running backs and tight ends. I think with Raheem Morris being there and being a defensive-minded head coach, it just makes all the sense in the world for them to actually go with a defensive player. Now that they have Kirk Cousins on the offensive side of the ball, obviously they got a wide receiver. They could use some wide receiver help, but at the very top of the draft in a deep wide receiver class, I don't think it's necessarily needed with the 3 top receivers off the board. Dallas Turner makes a ton of sense for me here. Line him up in the 2-point or 3-point stance, and he's going to be flying off the edge. At number 9, he has the Bears going with defensive end Jared Verse out of FSU. The Bears at 9 are probably the biggest wild card for me in terms of trying to figure out what these teams could do in front of us, because the Bears could very well go wide receiver if a receiver falls to them. They could very well go with an offensive tackle in some capacity. They could go with the top defensive player, or they could trade out with a team maybe sitting behind us with a J.J. McCarthy still on the board. I think they might find that lucrative as well. I like this. This is, arguably number 2 edge rusher in the class, or 1A, 1A, 1B, if you want to flip him and Turner. I think it makes a lot of sense. Bears fixing up the entire team, and Caleb Williams already has all the nice shiny play things for him to go out and have a successful rookie campaign. I don't think there's any issues with taking Jared Verse here at number 9. Number 10, the Jets wind up making the selection of Brock Bowers. Now, if I'm the Jets at this particular spot, given the way the board has fallen, I would 110% try to trade out with either the Broncos, the Raiders, the Saints, you could argue the Seahawks, any of those teams that may want to come up for J.J. McCarthy. Because in my mind, as much as I really like Brock Bowers, I really like the idea of the Jets adding a second-round pick. And if you can kind of pit some of the teams that are right behind us against one another, then maybe you can get that second-round pick, and then maybe still even get a Brock Bowers if he slides down the board just a little bit more. But if the Jets sit and pick at number 10, I do think the selection is going to be Brock Bowers. The Jets signed left tackle Tyron Smith and traded for right tackle Morgan Moses. Now, both those guys are elevated in age, only on 1-year contracts, so you could still see offensive line here. But in my mind, I just have a very hard time wanting to take a player at number 10 that ideally doesn't see the field. And I understand the worst case scenario situation where AVT doesn't perform up to snuff or gets hurt, or Tyron Smith doesn't complete a full season and winds up getting knocked out. I'm a little less concerned because I don't think season-ending injuries are necessarily a trend thing that can consistently happen with AVT, given the 2 different injuries that he's had. And then on the left tackle side of things with Tyron Smith, I don't think, he's always played in playoff games. So the games that he's missing in season are like one-off games. And in that sort of capacity, I'm all right with a Carter Warren being like a 1-game fill-in for me. As long as we don't have to rely on him too crazy hard. I don't want to necessarily overdraft an offensive lineman purely out of panic and PTSD from the last few years. So Bowers here is an interesting option. I think the New York Jets, you had an opportunity last year to see what the Jets' mindset was going to be. They wanted to go and get a Jahmyr Gibbs, a home run threat at running back, when they already had Breece Hall on the roster. They were possibly thinking about taking Michael Mayer. He was number 2 on their draft board behind Will McDonald, our eventual first-round pick. So the Jets were clearly thinking tight end in the same tight end room that the Jets already currently have, minus 𝐂𝐮𝐬𝐽 coming into this particular draft. Bowers being that historical generational type talent that everyone's talking about. I think this would be a home run talent for the New York Jets to select at number 10. I know people get upset about tight end versus value in the first round, but my argument is always going to be, if you hit on the tight end and you hit the evaluation process, you can't tell me that Kittle and Kelce and Laporta and Mark Andrews, if you knew the evaluation on them, wouldn't have been top 10 picks. I think they all would have been worthy of that top 10 selection, and Brock Bowers is no different in my mind. I think he's very, very talented, and it gives you an elite weapon at running back in Breece Hall, wide receiver in Garrett Wilson, and tight end up the seam and like right around the line of scrimmage in Brock Bowers. This is an opportunity where you can have someone that's going to get open very quickly. In the event the offensive line does kind of fall apart, all 3 of these weapons can get open very quickly, and you can kind of neutralize some of the offensive line issues that you'll wind up having. So I like Brock Bowers for the Jets at number 10. I know it's probably a hot button topic here with the offensive line issues, but you can let me know about that in the comment section down below. At number 11, you got the Vikings selecting J.J. McCarthy. Now, I do think this is ultimately going to be their selection, but it's going to be the selection at number 4. So I don't think they'll ultimately make this pick here. J.J. McCarthy, 25-1 as a starter at Michigan. Guy, all he does is win. Now, is this a little bit of a reach? Sure, but the quarterback position, if it hits, it's your guy for the next 15 years, so it's hard to argue against it, especially when so many teams need a quarterback just behind you as well. So some of these guys are not going to fall to later picks. I think they'll use that later first-round pick at 23 to get up to that number 4 selection. So McCarthy comes off the board to the Vikings. At number 12, he's got the Broncos selecting quarterback Bo Nix out of Oregon. And this is a monster reach for me right now. But when you think about the Broncos, it kind of makes sense. They don't have a quarterback that you really want to see starting this year on the roster currently, and they don't have a second-round pick. So if you were thinking, hey, why don't they just trade into the back end of the first round with their second-round pick plus next year's first, that sounds like a great idea in theory, but they don't have another pick until the 3rd round. So realistically, they're going to have to take a quarterback at 12 or trade up high enough to beat the Vikings trade value and to get into the top 4 to select a quarterback. And Bo Nix, had a really prolific college career here. 4,400 yards this past season, 45 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. This is someone that I think fits that Drew Brees quick passing mindset that Sean Payton may want to run. Now, the knock on Bo Nix is that he doesn't really read defenses super well if the first option isn't there. So a lot of times he'll take off and run. The post-snap processing is something that we'll need to see get worked on at the next level. But Bo Nix here, as much as I don't love the value for the Broncos, I think it does make a lot of sense given where they're currently at. At number 13, you have the Raiders selecting J.C. Latham. Now, they are another team that could consider taking a quarterback, and if I were them, I would be looking at Michael Penix Jr. Now, I don't think I would do that at this point in the draft. I would probably try to come up at the back end of the first round if you think he's going to fall. But J.C. Latham going 13 to the Raiders makes all the sense in the world. This guy's got tree trunks for legs, and they just lost Jermaine Illuminor to the Giants. So they need an offensive lineman as well. Whether you're drafting a quarterback later in this draft or you just want to protect Aiden O'Connell and Gardner Minshew out in Vegas, I think this is a safe signing for the Raiders here, and I think they'll get a really good player in J.C. Latham. First team All-SEC, had 21 career penalties, little bit of a knock against him in terms of like maybe putting you in some bad downs and distances, but hopefully that doesn't rear its head in the NFL too frequently. He played the 6th hardest strength of schedule, so he was basically facing NFL teams anyway at the collegiate level. Next pickup is the Saints selecting Olu Fashanu, the left tackle out of Penn State. This is someone for a long time I had the Jets taken at number 10 overall, and I was super mad during the end of the NFL season because I thought for sure the Jets had played themselves out of Olu Fashanu, and lo and behold, on the board for the Jets. Jets wind up passing on him anyway. I like this player a lot. Lots of upside in terms of where he could potentially grow to. Pass blocking is really his main kind of staple for fame. Run blocking maybe needs a little bit of work, but I don't think it's like a detriment at any sort, like by any sort of the imagination. Now, the Saints do have a tackle that did not work out, and the name is escaping me off the top of my head right now. And they have Ramchick on the other side, who obviously has some pretty bad knees and injury history or whatever. So taking an offensive lineman, assuming they're not going to look for a quarterback, and especially since Derek Carr is pretty young at this point, you just kind of build around him a little bit longer, keep him upright, and then I think you could do some damage in that NFC South division. At number 15, you got the Colts taking the top cornerback off the board, Quinyon Mitchell, and I would say Quinyon Mitchell is my top corner as well. And it's a little, kind of in the eye of the beholder. There's like 4 or 5 corners that I've seen all kind of interchanged, one above the other. Quinyon Mitchell dominated the Senior Bowl, dominated the Combine. This guy is just checking every box that he has against pro-ready, seniors in college down at the Senior Bowl. I thought it was really impressive. No touchdowns allowed this past year, 1 interception and 14 pass breakups. He is allowing a 43.8% completion percentage and only gave up 290 yards on the season. It's a special corner. I really don't forget the school. I think he's going to be sticky good in the NFL. At number 16, you got the Seahawks taking Troy Fautanu, the guard tackle from Washington. Now, his arms measured out over 34 inches, which is kind of the benchmark for offensive tackles. A little bit surprising because a lot of people thought he'd have to kick into guard at the NFL level, and that might be where he starts, but then eventually I do think he's going to move outside to the tackle position. If the Jets were to come back and trade down, I would be all in on Troy Fautanu. Now, the connection here with the Seahawks, his offensive line coach in college, or maybe it was his offensive coordinator in college, is now the O-line coach for the Seattle Seahawks. So if they're looking to upgrade the offensive line, this could be a very strong candidate for this selection here. Really good pass blocker, really good run blocker. Scouting reports had him saying hand placement was a little bit of an issue, so maybe something to keep an eye on, I guess. This past season, over the last 4 years, 3 sacks, 43 pressures, and 16 penalties. Not too bad. Not going to put you in bad situations. Seattle Seahawks get a pretty good offensive lineman at 16. At 17, he's got the Jaguars selecting Terrion Arnold, the corner from Alabama. This one makes a lot of sense. Arguably the top corner in the class as well. Really good press man coverage, really good zone coverage, run defense above average. Really good at mirroring wide receivers, tracking the ball downfield. You can tell by the interceptions and pass breakups, allowing a 52% completion percentage against him and only 2 touchdowns. Really impressive corner and only 7 penalties over the course of the last 2 years. So he's not going to be giving up large chunk plays potentially in the NFL with those pass interference calls. At number 18, the Bengals select Talise Funga, the right tackle from Oregon State. Now, this is a really, really nasty SOB. This guy will bury you 6 feet under in the run blocking game. And with them losing Jonah Williams, they need someone that's going to protect Joe Burrow. And right tackle makes all the sense in the world. 12 career penalties to his name. Team captain, love that for him. I think the Bengals get a really, really good right tackle here. No issues with this selection whatsoever. I would be fine if the Jets made this selection at number 10. Now, at number 19, he has the Rams selecting Byron Murphy II. This is the heir apparent to one Aaron Donald, who just retired. This is someone that has been screaming up draft boards basically since, I think since the Combine or since the Senior Bowl. Explosive first step. Can really get a lot of pressure up the A-gap. If you can get a quarterback off their mark from interior pressure, it just causes all sorts of chaos and is more likely to create more turnover-worthy plays. Really good versus the run, really good in the pass rush scenarios. Not great when double-teamed because he is a little bit undersized maybe for his height. I think if he adds on a little bit of weight, maybe it's, kind of shakes that off. Only 1 career penalty. Was surprised to see that. Good player here for the Rams at number 19. Number 20, Steelers wind up making a selection for a wide receiver. Now that Deontay Johnson is no longer in the building, they have Justin Fields and Russell Wilson. They got to get someone with a big size profile. This guy's 6'3", 205 pounds. Brian Thomas Jr. was the wide receiver opposite Malik Nabers down at LSU and 15 touchdowns. Explosive year from him this past season. Now, he is a little bit of a one-year wonder, so a lot of this is going to wind up being projection. If he had one more season at semi-reasonable stats like this, he'd probably be a top 10 pick all day. So I really like this pick here for the Pittsburgh Steelers. At number 21, he's got the Dolphins selecting versatile offensive lineman Graham Barton out of Duke. This guy can play all 5 offensive line positions, which is going to help the Dolphins at this point in time because they lost Robert Hunt to the Carolina Panthers, $100 million contract. They have Connor Williams coming off, I believe it's an ACL injury. So they're going to need a little bit of positional flexibility on that offensive line. And this guy could absolutely do that. 2,000 snaps at left tackle, 1,000 snaps at center, 7 penalties over the course of his collegiate career, and only 2 sacks. Due to his arm length, they're thinking he's going to be a little bit more of an interior offensive lineman. So maybe you're not going to catch him outside at left tackle or right tackle, but at the very least, very, very good. 7 penalties this past year. That was the knock on him. 22 career penalties over 4 years. My mistake. Versatile offensive lineman, a little bit earlier than I kind of expected him going, but I've seen him go to 24 to the Cowboys. So I think this could make all the sense in the world as well. Dolphins get themselves a really good offensive lineman. I would honestly probably go with Jackson Powers-Johnson here because I like his guard center tenacity. So maybe shift this over to that particular pick. But Graham Barton, not a bad player by any means. Number 22, you got the Eagles selecting Nate Wiggins out of Clemson. This is probably him falling a little bit due to his injury at the combine. Maybe teams deem Quinyon Mitchell and Terrion Arnold just a little bit better, not having any sort of injury concern or whatever. But Nate Wiggins, nice size at 6'2", over 1,200 snaps at cornerback, 2 interceptions, 4 pass breakups, and has a 43.9% completion percentage when targeted. He's disciplined, only 8 career penalties throughout his time in college, so pretty rock solid corner here. Really nice length. I think the Philadelphia Eagles getting a really nice corner at number 22. Number 23, I don't expect the Vikings to have this pick when all things are said and done. I do think it's ultimately going to get traded to the Arizona Cardinals or the LA Chargers, depending on where J.J. McCarthy ultimately is sitting. But they have him taking a corner safety hybrid in Cooper DeJean, arguably the top corner on the board. I think PFF has him like in their top 10. Yeah, yep. I think he's still at like number 9 or 10 on their big board. Really good zone coverage, really good man coverage. Maybe needs, I said fluidity. Recovery speed, really good at closing gaps. Number 14 on Bruce Fieldman's freak list. And positional flexibility. Cornerback, safety, special teams, going to give you a lot of flexibility. Don't love this pick, if I'm being honest. But again, I don't think the Vikings ultimately select here when all is said and done. And number 24, Tyler Guyton, tackle from Oklahoma. Cowboys clearly need a tackle now that Tyron Smith has left. Tyler Guyton projects to be able to play either side of the offensive line. Not a lot of snaps in college. That's really the only reason he's going as far down on the board as he is, less than 1,000 snaps at right tackle. I think the Cowboys are going to look maybe a little bit more interior offensive line than tackle, but you can't be upset with taking someone with the freak athleticism and size profile that Guyton has. He's literally a GM's wet dream when it comes to profile. Really good pass blocker, strong anchor, needs to work a little bit more on the running game, but has the ideal size for a tackle in the NFL. Tyler Guyton coming off the board for the Cowboys at number 24. Number 25, Packers get a really good edge rusher in Laiatu Latu. I have him much higher on my board in terms of edge rushers. Now, the concern with him is he had 2 neck injuries that nearly, or maybe it was 1 neck injury, that nearly ended his career. He missed 2 seasons because of it, wound up transferring from Washington to UCLA, and now he's been like just a demon off the edge. 15 sacks, 33 stops, and 62 pressures. This guy is an absolute monster. I think he would have been a top 10 pick if it were not for the neck injury. So look, at 25, the Packers get him here. I think they'd be very, very happy with that selection. Other directions I could see them go, maybe a tackle, maybe a cornerback, but edge rusher, premium position in the first round. Can't get too upset with that. Number 26, the Buccaneers are taking Xavier Worthy, the speed demon, out of Texas. This guy ran a 4.21 40-yard dash to set the record at the combine. Blazing fast speed. Obviously, Mike Evans has, what did he sign, a 2-year contract with them. Chris Godwin's on the final year of his deal, so they're going to need a receiver at some point, and at least from like a profile standpoint, you look at the size Mike Evans has, the route running ability of Godwin, and then you get a burner like Xavier Worthy. I think they have a really scary 3-headed monster at the wide receiver position. This is a little bit higher than I would expect Worthy to go, but hey, speed kills in the NFL. So maybe that's that 40-yard dash got him into the first round. Number 27, the Cardinals selecting Chop Robinson, edge out of Penn State. This guy's been rising up boards over the course of the season. I mean, you can see at one point Pro Football Focus had him at 44, and he's slowly creeped up into the first round conversation here. 10 sacks, 87 pressures, has a great rip and dip against offensive tackles. You'll see it here in some of the highlights that I'm showing. Cardinals need a whole lot of help. So that's why I think they could trade out of number 4 with the Vikings, pick up what would eventually wind up being 3 first-round picks, and that could really turn their team around. I like this pick. You get a stud at the beginning of the draft in Marvin Harrison Jr. You get a stud on the defensive side here in Chop Robinson. Number 28, you got the Bills selecting TJ Tampa, the corner out of Iowa. Over 1,700 snaps, 6 pass breakups in 2023. Football instincts, really good in zone coverage. Reputation as a physical corner. Aggressive style leads to a little bit of a double-edged sword. You can get the pass breakups or the interceptions, or you can get screwed and let up a big gain. But overall, really, really talented player, two-way player in high school, really good in press man, really good at zone, and really good at tackling as well. Bills get a pretty good player after letting go of Trey White this past offseason, so they could go a few different routes. I've kind of penciled them in for wide receiver to replace a Gabe Davis and give Josh Allen a bigger weapon because you don't know how long Stefon Diggs is going to end up being there. So I don't know if I'd go corner with them here, but without Trey White, I guess there's a pretty strong argument for it. At number 29, you have the Lions selecting Xavier Legette. This is definitely higher than I've ever seen Legette go, and I really like him. So I'm not going to knock the pick necessarily. You can see as far as the big boards go, a lot of the major scouting areas don't have this guy as a first-round talent, but he seems to me like he's like A.J. Brown, Deebo Samuel, Quincy Enunwa for us Jet fans. Obviously, hopefully the health is a little bit better there, but just a freak athlete that can do a lot for your offense. And if the Jets get a second-round pick and Xavier Legette is an option for us in the second round, he would probably be my top option. So I really like this. I don't love it here for the Lions because it's as high as it is. But if you wind up hitting on the player, I don't think you can be too upset here. Number 30, you got the Ravens selecting right tackle, Amarius Mims, and the Ravens just seem like they are so lucky. Every year, they get a player that I deem to be just so good and so raw, or just like maybe a little too high to select him where the Jets are ultimately picking. They got Linderbaum, they got Kyle Hamilton, like literally all the players that I've wanted in the last few drafts. And Amarius Mims is no exception to that. As far as tackle prospects goes, he's actually my favorite. It's just a little bit of the injury bug and not enough snaps in college to really give you the warm and fuzzies enough to select him in the top 15, top 20. But getting him here at number 30 after losing Morgan Moses, this is a home run selection for the Baltimore Ravens. And you can really play him on either side. This guy's going to have positional flexibility. No issues whatsoever with the Ravens selecting Amarius Mims here. Number 31, this is like a massive reach in my book. Roger Rosengarten, the right tackle out of Washington, going to the San Francisco 49ers. Maybe it's something that, like the West Coast, they just see this guy a lot more and have a better evaluation on him. The big boards have this guy like NFL Draft Buzz has him the highest at 136. Over 100 picks higher than Mel Kiper has him going right here. So I think he's off base on this selection. It doesn't make sense to me. Really strong pass blocker. Maybe, I don't know, 0 career sacks, 32 pressures in his career, 10 penalties over 2 years. Like, I get why you might like him, but it feels like an extreme reach for me, especially when the 49ers have so many picks. They have, I want to say it's a first round pick, a second round pick, and then 2 picks in the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th rounds. So many stone throws. It's not like you don't have a pick in the 2nd or 3rd round where you feel like you have to reach on a tackle. I don't love this selection for them. I like the player, just way too high for my liking. At number 32, the Chiefs select the other wide receiver from Texas, A.D. Mitchell, Adonai Mitchell, 6'4", blazing speed. This guy, I actually like him more than Xavier Worthy. Xavier Worthy may end up going higher than him purely because of that 40-yard dash time. But man, I very much like AD Mitchell here. You can turn to him and like kind of in clutch time is, lob a ball up. This guy's going to go up and get it. And with the speed and everything, high IQ route runner, really good tracking the ball. To say concerns with high pointing, that was a little surprising for me when I was going through everything. Now, admittedly, I didn't watch a crazy ton of AD Mitchell. I did have him in my mock draft for the Jets a while back, but clearly much higher on the board at this point. But the Chiefs need a wide receiver. They brought in Hollywood Brown. Hollywood Brown's only on a 1-year contract. AD Mitchell would perfectly complement that wide receiver room. I think that makes a lot of sense for the Kansas City Chiefs. So guys, let me know down below in the comment section, what did you think of Mel Kiper's mock draft 3.0? Don't forget to join the mock draft contest in the link in the description down below. And if you want to support the channel, get yourself some good gummies, THC seltzer, maybe a little THC syrup. Head over to 𝐀𝐟𝐼𝐥𝐻, link in the description down below. Promo code JetsTalk24. Nope, that's the wrong promo code. JetsTalk for 25% off. And I will catch you guys in the next video. Thank you guys so much for hitting the like and subscribe button on these videos. It goes a long way towards growing the channel. And then occasionally I get sponsors like this. So if you want to help support the sponsor of the channel, or maybe just get yourself some cool gear or some good discounts, you can click the link in the description down below. Today's sponsor, 𝐶𝐟𝐼𝐥, is going to give you 25% off your order using promo code JetsTalk. Link in the description down below. They've got gummies, THC syrup, THC seltzers. I just discovered these things. They are incredible. As someone who has been trying to cut down a little bit of their alcohol consumption and not, maybe feel as crummy the next day, this has been a godsend for me. Keep me nice and calm, cool, and collected, especially with all the hurdles that our Jets throw our way and all the headaches that we got to deal with as fans. So if you guys want to help support the channel, maybe get yourself a little bit of a discount as well. Support the sponsors of the channel, 𝐀𝐟𝐼𝐥. Thank you so much for watching the show.